The first time Naima saw him, she thought death had walked into the convenience store wearing a designer coat. It was 3:47 in the morning in Seoul's Itaewon district, and she was alone except for the tired clerk and her jet-lagged confusion. She'd been staring at instant noodles for 10 minutes, her dark skin glowing under fluorescent lights, when the door chimed and everything changed. He moved like violence wrapped in silk, tall, precise, with eyes so empty they could swallow souls. When those eyes landed on her, something flickered. Something dangerous. Something that would destroy them both before the year ended. But Naima didn't know that yet. All she knew was that this stranger was blocking her path, and she was tired of being invisible. Naima grabbed a package with a cartoon octopus and turned to leave. He stood in the aisle like a statue carved from ice and indifference, reading a banana milk bottle with absurd concentration. She needed to pass. He didn't move. "Excuse me," she said in English, then tried her broken Korean. "Shili hamnida?" Nothing. Not even a blink. Like she'd spoken to air. Heat crawled up her neck. 6 days in Seoul had been 6 days of stares, of hands touching her braids without permission, of being treated like an exhibit instead of a person. She was a graphic designer from Atlanta, 28 years old, and she'd crossed an ocean for this job. She wasn't going to be ignored in a convenience store at 4 in the morning. "Move," she said flatly. His eyebrow lifted. Barely perceptible. A crack in the marble. "You heard me. I said excuse me twice. You could pretend to be a decent human and actually move." For 3 seconds, the world held its breath. Then his lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Something sharper. More aware. He stepped aside with exaggerated politeness, gesturing like a butler presenting a hallway to royalty. Naima walked past, her shoulder nearly brushing his chest. She caught his scent, clean soap, night air, something undefined that made her pulse stutter for reasons she refused to examine. She didn't look back, she didn't need to. She could feel his eyes following her into the Seoul humidity. 2 nights later, fate or foolishness brought her back. Same store. Same impossible hour. Her sleep schedule was destroyed, so she'd stopped fighting it. Seoul at night felt safer anyway, fewer stares, fewer whispers about the black woman who didn't belong. He was there. Different clothes, dark jeans, white shirt, same expressionless mask. Standing in front of the ramen like it held answers to questions he hadn't asked. Naima ignored him. Grabbed kimbap, yogurt drinks, honey buttered chips she was becoming addicted to. She was at the counter when his voice cut through the fluorescent hum. "Your Korean is terrible." She froze. Turned slowly. He was close enough that she could see his eyes weren't pure black, amber flecks caught the light near his pupils. His Korean was smooth, but something lived underneath it. An echo of somewhere else. "Excuse me," she said in English. "You're Korean." He switched languages without effort, his English flawless and American accented. "It's terrible. You mispronounced Shili hamnida." The intonation was wrong. Heat flooded her face. "I'm learning. Maybe if people were patient instead of rude." "I wasn't being rude. I was being accurate. Those aren't mutually exclusive." "True." His head tilted slightly, examining her like she was a puzzle missing obvious pieces. "You're American." "Yes." "Working here? Why do you care?" Something flickered behind his eyes. "Amusement, maybe." "I don't." He stepped around her, paid for banana milk and cigarettes, and left without another word. The clerk muttered something in rapid Korean. Naima caught 2 words through her limited vocabulary: be careful, dangerous. She didn't know if he meant the neighborhood or the man. Night 3 arrived with Naima telling herself she wasn't going back to that store. She had food. She wasn't hungry. There was no reason. At 3:22, she was pulling on jeans anyway. He wasn't there. Disappointment sank through her stomach like a stone, which was ridiculous. She didn't even know his name. He'd been nothing but strange and vaguely insulting. She grabbed her usual items plus instant coffee because apparently she was destroying her body one convenience store trip at a time. The clerk rang her up. She was almost to the door when it opened. He walked in. Saw her. Stopped. For the first time, something crossed his face. Surprise, recognition, something beyond basic awareness. "You're predictable," he said. "So are you," Naima shot back. "Am I?" Same time. Same store. Same banana milk. "Yeah, you are." The corner of his mouth twitched. "Maybe I like consistency. Or maybe you have insomnia and no friends." The words escaped before she could stop them. Too personal. Too confrontational for a stranger she'd spoken to exactly once. But instead of anger, he laughed. Quiet and brief, but real. It transformed his entire face. Suddenly he wasn't cold stone but someone who might be human underneath the ice. "Both," he admitted. "Definitely both." They stood in fluorescent light at 3 in the morning, and the air shifted into something Naima couldn't name but could feel in her bones. "I'm Naima," she heard herself say. "Taesung." "Just Taesung?" she asked. "For now." "Mysterious," she replied. "Practical." He moved past her toward his banana milk. "You shouldn't be out this late alone. I can take care of myself." "I'm sure you can." He was at the counter now, paying. But Seoul isn't always kind to people who stand out. "I've noticed," she said dryly. He paid, turned to leave, paused at the door. "Walk the main street home. Not the alley behind the hotel." "Why?" "Because I said so." "That's not a reason." He looked like he might argue. "There are men who wait there sometimes. Drunk foreigners looking for, just use the main street." Before she could respond, he was gone. Naima took the main street home, hating that she was grateful for the warning. Night 7 established their pattern. Unplanned. Undiscussed. But both of them are there. Naima showed up around 3:30. He arrived within 10 minutes. Like choreography neither had rehearsed. Tonight, tension lived in his shoulders. His jaw was tight, his movements sharp. "Bad day?" Naima asked, because apparently they were at that point. "Something like that." "Want to talk about it?" "No." "Want to sit and not talk about it?" He looked at her like she'd suggested something radical. Then slowly, he nodded. They ended up on the curb outside the convenience store. Seoul's summer heat was oppressive even at this hour, but a breeze moved through the street. Naima opened her banana milk. Yes, she'd switched to his drink, and no, she wasn't examining why. He lit a cigarette. "Those'll kill you," she said. "Lots of things will." Dark. Realistic. Silence settled between them. Not awkward. Just there. "Why Seoul?" he asked finally. "Work." "You?" "Born here. But the American accent. Lived in LA for 8 years. I came back 3 years ago." "Why come back?" His expression shuddered like a door slamming. "Family business." The way he said it was final. A wall going up. "What do you do?" she tried instead. "Import-export." "That's vague." "It's accurate." "Those aren't mutually exclusive," Naima echoed his earlier words. This time, the smile reached his eyes. They talked until 5 in the morning. About nothing. About everything. He told her the best Jajangmyeon place in Itaewon. She told him about her disastrous bathhouse experience. He didn't laugh, just explained what she'd done wrong with that same serious expression, like her cultural fumbles were problems requiring solutions. When she finally stood to leave, her legs were stiff from sitting. "Same time tomorrow?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "Maybe." "That means yes, doesn't it?" "Maybe." She was smiling as she walked home through Seoul's waking streets. 2 weeks became 3. 3 became a month. The convenience store at 3 a.m. became theirs in ways neither acknowledged but both understood. Naima learned Taesung in fragments. He didn't volunteer information, she had to excavate each piece. He is 31 years old. Only child. Mother died when he was 16. Father was complicated, delivered with such finality she didn't push. He spoke 4 languages, Korean, English, Japanese, Mandarin. Read constantly, philosophy, history, crime novels. Had a scar on his left hand that he wouldn't explain. He never asked about her work. Never asked if she was dating anyone. Never tried to touch her, even casually. But he was always there. When she showed up at 3:30, he appeared by 3:45. Without fail. One night, Naima ran late. Rushed to the store at 4:15, convinced she'd missed him. He was standing outside. Hands in pockets. Face turned toward the direction of her apartment. "You were waiting," she said, breathless. "I was having a cigarette." "For 45 minutes?" "I smoke slowly." Liar. But she didn't tell him. Just felt something warm unfold in her chest. Week 6. Everything changed because of the rain. Seoul's monsoon season hit like divine punishment. Naima was caught 3 blocks from home when the sky opened. Within seconds, she was drenched, running for the nearest shelter. The convenience store. She burst through the door like a drowned cat, braids dripping onto linoleum, mascara probably running, shivering in her thin dress. Taesung was there. Of course he was. He took one look at her and something crossed his face. Real, unguarded concern. "You're soaked," he said unnecessarily. Observant. He shrugged off his jacket, expensive black leather, and held it out. "Take this." "I'll ruin it." "I don't care." Naima stared. At the jacket. At the way he was looking at her like her comfort actually mattered in his calculated world. She took it. It smelled like him. That clean scent she'd been trying not to notice, not to memorize, not to crave. "My place is 2 blocks away," he said quietly. "You can dry off. I'll call you a taxi." Every self-preservation instinct screamed no. She barely knew this man. Yes, they'd talked for hours. Yes, he felt safe. But she didn't know him. Not really. Okay, she heard herself say anyway. Taesung's apartment wasn't what Naima expected. Hanamdong. New high-rise. The kind with doormen and marble floors and the smell of money. The elevator required a key card. They rode to the 17th floor in silence that hummed with unspoken things. His apartment was minimalist to the point of sterile. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Han River. Black leather furniture. No photos. No personal touches except books, shelves and shelves of them. "Bathrooms there," he pointed. "I'll find you something dry." Naima stood in his pristine bathroom, dripping on expensive tile, and realized she was in a stranger's apartment at 4 in the morning. But Taesung didn't feel like a stranger anymore. That was the dangerous part. When she emerged wearing his oversized black sweatshirt and sweatpants, he was making tea in the kitchen. His back to her. Movements precise. "Called a taxi," he said without turning. 30 minutes. "Rain slows everything." "Thank you." He brought 2 cups to the coffee table. They sat on opposite ends of his couch, the same careful distance they always maintained, like magnets fighting their own pull. "Nice place," Naima said. "It's a box. Expensive box. Family business pays well. What kind of import-export needs this much security?" She gestured toward the keycard elevator. His hands tightened on the cup. "The careful kind." Taesung. "Naima. Are you in trouble?" "The illegal kind. The dangerous kind." Silence stretched so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, define trouble. You know what I mean. Would it matter? Yes. He looked at her then. Really looked, like he was trying to memorize her face before something took it away. My family, he said slowly, each word chosen with care, is involved in business that operates in gray areas. Import-export is accurate, we move goods across borders. Some of those goods exist in legal spaces. Some don't. I've been trying to legitimize things since I came back from LA. But it's complicated. Naima's heart pounded. Are you telling me you're a criminal? I'm telling you I'm trying not to be. They stared at each other across expensive leather and expensive secrets. She should leave. Should run. Should block his number and find a new convenience store and forget this ever happened. The men in the alley, she said instead. You didn't warn me about drunk foreigners. You warned me because you know what happens there. Yes. Because you're people. No. The word cracked like a whip. Not my people. Never. I don't touch that business. But I know the people who do, and I can't stop them without starting a war I'll lose. So you just warn random women at convenience stores. You're not random. The words hung in the air like smoke, impossible to take back. What am I then? Naima whispered. He set down his tea. Stood. He walked to the window and stared at Seoul's endless lights reflected in the river below. You're the first person in 3 years who's looked at me like I'm human, he said to the glass. Who argues with me? Who doesn't want anything from me? Who doesn't know what my family name means and doesn't care because it's just a name to you? What does it mean? It means people are afraid. It means they bow. It means I've been alone in rooms full of people for most of my life. Naima stood and walked to him. She stopped close enough to see their reflections in the window, his tall frame, her dark skin against his pale walls, two people who shouldn't fit together. I'm not afraid of you, she said. You should be. But I'm not. He turned. They were inches apart. She could see the war in his eyes, want and restraint, hope and resignation, something that looked like drowning. You should go, he said roughly. The taxi. Tell me why you wait for me every night. Naima. Tell me why you remember my coffee order. Why you started reading the books I mention. Why you smoke 3 cigarettes when I'm late. Why you gave me your jacket. Why you brought me here. Because I'm selfish. His voice was raw, stripped of its usual control. Because every night I tell myself to stop going to that store and every night I go anyway. Because you make me feel like the person I wanted to be before everything got complicated. Because. Naima kissed him. Didn't think. Didn't plan. Just rose on her toes and pressed her mouth to his, and for one heartbeat he was frozen, and then he was kissing her back like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning for years. His hands cupped her face like she was something precious, breakable, impossibly valuable. The kiss was gentle at first, questioning. When she sighed against his mouth, it deepened into something desperate, 3 months of careful distance combusting into heat and need and relief. They broke apart breathing hard. I can't offer you a normal relationship, he said against her forehead. I can't take you to meet my family. I can't introduce you to my colleagues. I can't be seen with you in most of Seoul. Each word was a stone in Naima's stomach. Because of what you do, she asked. Because of what you are. The words hit like a physical blow. He must have seen it in her face because he quickly added, my world is traditional. Old-fashioned. Racist in ways that would make you sick. If they knew if they knew about you, I'd be in danger. We'd both be in danger. Naima stepped back. So what are you saying? That this, whatever this is, can't happen? I'm saying it shouldn't happen. That's not the same thing. Naima. Do you want me? She made herself ask. Not theoretically. Not if circumstances were different. Right now. Do you want me? His jaw clenched. More than I've wanted anything in years. Then the rest is logistics. The rest could get you killed. I didn't move to Seoul to play it safe. This isn't adventure. This is real danger from real people who don't see you as human. Then we will be careful. Secret. Whatever it takes. He stared at her like she'd lost her mind. Maybe she had. She barely knew this man. Didn't know the full truth of what he did, what his family did, what blood might be on his hands. But she knew how he looked at her. Knew the gentleness in his hands despite the violence they might have committed. Knew that for 2 months, he'd been the only person in Seoul who saw her, not her hair, not her skin, not her foreignness. Just her. I can't promise you will be happy, he said finally. I'm not asking for promises. I'm asking for honesty. I am being honest. Then start with your full name. There was a long pause before he said. Park Tae-sung. Park. Naima repeated. That's a name that means something in certain circles. Yes. How much something? Enough that we need to be very, very careful. Her phone buzzed. The taxi. I should go, she said. He nodded. He didn't move. He just stood in the middle of his sterile apartment trying to look casual and failing completely. Naima was at the door when he spoke. Tomorrow. Same time? She looked back. Maybe. That means yes, doesn't it? Maybe. She was smiling as the door closed behind her. They became a secret written in the margins of Seoul's nights. The convenience store remained their meeting place, but now they left together. Sometimes to his apartment. Sometimes they just walked empty streets until dawn painted the sky. He taught her Korean, patiently correcting pronunciation, writing characters on napkins with the focus he brought to everything. She taught him about design, showed him her work on her tablet, explained color theory and composition. They talked about everything except the specific details of his family business. Naima pretended she didn't notice the phone calls he stepped away to take, the way his expression hardened when certain names appeared on his screen. He pretended he didn't see her Googling Park Family Seoul on her phone late at night. The results were vague. Business articles. Society photos from years ago. Nothing concrete. But the absence of information felt intentional, scrubbed clean by money and power. Month 4. They were in his apartment. Naima was curled against his chest on the couch, his fingers tracing absent patterns on her shoulder like he was writing messages in a language only their bodies understood. Tell me something that's true, she said. I'm holding you. Something deeper, she asked. There was a silence before he said, I killed someone when I was 19. Naima went still. What? In LA, self-defense, legally, clearly self-defense. Gang member tried to rob me. But I still took a life. His voice was flat. Factual. Like reading a grocery list. That's when my father brought me back to Seoul. Said I had the family instinct. The ability to do what's necessary. Tae-sung. You wanted the truth. She sat up and okayed at him. Do you still? No. I run the legitimate operations. Manage the legal imports, work with customs, handle paperwork. But I know what happens in the other divisions. I benefit from that money. That makes me complicit. You said you're trying to change things. Trying isn't the same as succeeding. Naima took his face in her hands. Tell me you're not a monster. I can't. Try. His eyes searched hers. I'm trying to be better than what I was raised to be. Trying to build something clean from dirty foundations. But I have blood on my hands, Naima. Old blood. And I'm surrounded by people who would add fresh blood without hesitation, including yours. Including mine? Especially yours. If they knew, he stopped. Pulled away. Stood and paced to the window. There are people in my organization who think Korean blood shouldn't mix with others. Who see you as a threat to purity, tradition, all that racist bullshit, wearing cultural pride as a mask. If they knew about us. We're careful. Careful might not be enough. She went to him. Wrapped her arms around him from behind. Felt the tension vibrating through his body like a plucked string. Then what do we do? She asked his reflection. I really don't know. They stood 17 floors above Seoul as the city woke up, removed from reality but not from its consequences. The first crack appeared in week 17. Naima was at a coffee shop in Gangnam meeting a client. The meeting ran long. She checked her phone when it finished, 11:47 p.m. 3 missed calls from Taesung. He never called. Never. Their relationship existed in text messages and predetermined meetings and a careful architecture of secrecy. She called back immediately. Where are you? His voice was sharp, harder than she'd ever heard it. Gangnam. Coffee shop near the station. Why? Stay there. I'm coming. Taesung, what? He'd already hung up. 20 minutes later, a black car she'd never seen pulled up. The driver stayed inside. Taesung got out, scanned the street with the practiced eye of someone trained to spot threats, and guided her to the car with a hand on her lower back that was both protective and urgent. They didn't speak until Seoul's lights were streaming past the windows. You want to explain what's going on? Naima asked. Someone saw us. Her stomach dropped. When? Last week. That restaurant in Itaewon. We were careful, but not careful enough. Word got back to my father's people. And they're looking into you. Who you are and hey, I'm spending time with you. They want to know what you mean to me. What do I mean to you? She asked him. He looked at her then. Something raw and unguarded in his expression. Everything. The word hung between them like a confession, like a curse, like both. So what happens now? Naima whispered. Now I convince them you're nothing. A foreigner I'm doing business with. A contact for expanding into African markets. He said it mechanically, like he'd rehearsed the lie. A means to an end. But that's a lie. Yes it is, and it's necessary for your safety. How long can we keep lying? As long as we have to. But Naima could hear it in his voice, he didn't believe that anymore. The architecture of their secrecy was crumbling. The driver, Naima later learned his name was Jin Ho, and he'd been with Taesung since L.A., dropped her at her apartment. Taesung didn't get out. Didn't kiss her goodbye. Didn't touch her. He just told her not to come to the store for a while. How long is a while? She asked him. I'll contact you. Taesung. Please, Naima. Please just trust me. She did. That was the problem. 1 week of silence became 2. Each day stretched longer than the last. Naima threw herself into work. Designed logos until her eyes blurred and her back ached. Took long walks through neighborhoods where no one knew her, where she could be anonymous in her foreignness. Tried to convince herself that this, them, was always temporary anyway, a beautiful accident that couldn't survive contact with the real world. On day 16, her buzzer rang at 2 in the morning. She checked the camera. Taesung. He looked wrecked. Exhausted. A bruise bloomed purple along his jaw. She let him in immediately. What happened? Can I stay here tonight? Of course, but just tonight. Then I'll explain everything. But right now I just need. He didn't finish. He just pulled her into his arms and held on like she was the only solid thing in his universe, like without her he might fragment into pieces. They ended up in her small bed. Not having sex, just holding each other in the dark. His face buried in her neck. Her fingers in his hair. Both of them breathing like they'd forgotten how. They wanted me to stop seeing you, he said into the darkness. my father's advisor. Senior member of the organization. Said I was risking too much for, he stopped. For what? He used a word I won't repeat. A slut, and that made me want to kill him. Anger flared hot and bright in Naima's chest. So you fought him? I told him to go to hell. He took it poorly. Decided to teach me respect the old-fashioned way. Taesung. I'm done, Naima. Done hiding. Done pretending. Done letting racist old men dictate my life like I'm still a child who needs permission to exist. She shifted to see his face in the darkness. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm choosing you. Fuck the consequences. You can't mean that. I've never meant anything more in my life. They'll hurt you. Hurt me. Then we will leave. Naima went still. Leave Seoul? Leave Korea. I have money. Resources outside the organization. We could go anywhere. Start over where nobody knows the park name, where nobody cares who you love. It was insane. Impossible. Every rational thought asked her to refuse. Where would we go? She heard herself ask anyway. Where do you want to go? I don't know. I just got here. My work, my visa. You can design from anywhere. And I can, he trailed off. I can figure something out. I'm not useless outside the organization. They lay in her small bed, turning over the impossibility of it, examining it from every angle. Ask me again in the morning, Naima finally said. When we're thinking clearly. I'll feel the same in the morning. Maybe. But ask me anyway. Dawn came too fast, painting her small apartment in shades of pink and gold. Naima woke to find Taesung already awake, watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch. Morning, she said. Come with me. No preamble. No softening. Just the raw ask. Taesung. I'm serious. We pack what matters, we leave tonight. I have an apartment in Singapore. We can stay there while we figure out our next steps. She sat up, pulling the blanket with her. You're really asking me to run away with you. I'm asking you to choose a life where we don't have to hide. Where I can hold your hand in public. Where we can be normal. What about your family? I'll leave them a letter. Explain that I'm out. The legitimate businesses can run without me, I've trained people. And the illegitimate ones? Not my problem anymore. It sounded so simple. So clean. It wasn't. They won't just let you leave, Naima said. You know too much. I know. But they won't come after me if I go quietly. If I don't make noise or try to expose them. You're sure? The pause was too long. Taesung. Are you sure? No, he admitted. But I'm sure that I can't keep doing this. Living half a life. Seeing you in secret like you're something to be ashamed of. Pretending you don't matter when you're the only thing that does. How long have you been planning this? Since the night we met. Since I saw you in that convenience store telling me to move like you had every right to take up space in the world. I've been looking for an exit for 3 years. You're the first reason I've found that's worth the risk. Naima's heart hammered against her ribs. I need time to think. We don't have time. Then I'll think fast. But Taesung, this is huge. You're asking me to give up my job, my visa, my entire plan. I'm asking you to choose me. That's not fair. I know. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration clear in every line of his body. I know it's not fair. But I'm out of fair options. He left an hour later with a promise to call by evening. Naima spent the day pacing her tiny apartment, weighing impossibilities on scales that couldn't balance. At 6 p.m., her phone rang. Not Taesung. A number she didn't recognize. Hello? Miss Naima Walker? The voice was male, older, speaking perfect English with a Korean accent that carried weight and authority. Who is this? My name isn't important. I'm calling regarding Park Tae-sung. Every nerve in Naima's body went on alert. Is he okay? He's fine. For now. I'm calling to offer you some friendly advice. I don't take advice from strangers. Then consider it information. Tae-sung is planning to leave Korea. He thinks he can simply walk away from his responsibilities, his family, his obligations. He's wrong. I don't know what you're talking about. Please don't insult us both with lies. I know about your relationship. I know he's asked you to leave with him. And I'm telling you that if he attempts this, there will be consequences. Naima's hand tightened on the phone. Are you threatening him? I'm explaining reality. Tae-sung has information, connections, knowledge that cannot be allowed to leave Korean borders. If he tries, measures will be taken. What kind of measures? The permanent kind. Fear iced through her veins. You'd kill him? We'd retrieve a valuable asset who is making a dangerous mistake. What happens during that retrieval would depend entirely on his cooperation. Naima couldn't breathe. What do you want from me? End the relationship. Tell him you've reconsidered. That you're not interested in a future together. Do this, and he'll stay. He'll be unhappy for a while, but he'll stay alive. He'll be safe. And if I don't? Then you'll watch him die trying to save a relationship that was doomed from the start. You're black, Miss Walker. You're American. You're everything his world rejects. Do you really think love conquers generations of tradition? Do you really think you're worth his life? The line went dead. Naima stood frozen in her apartment, phone clutched in her hand, understanding finally crashing over her like a wave. This was never going to work. The real world, Tae-sung's world, didn't allow for fairy tales. Didn't allow for love that crossed too many lines. Will Naima agree to go with him to Singapore? Or will she let him go? Drop a green heart if you think she should fight for him, or a broken heart if you think she should walk away. If you're loving Naima and Tae-sung's story, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you'll want to see where this forbidden connection leads. Because what's about to happen next will change everything. Please like, subscribe and comment your favorite moment in the story. Episode 2 drops in 3 days' time, and someone's about to make a choice they can't take back.